Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Bayan A.Arar. I'm a healthcare and life sciences global strategist. I work in MENA markets and globally, and I'm pleased to introduce our guest speaker and to moderate this session today. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. Medical devices are no longer peripheral to healthcare systems. They are central to diagnosis, treatment, digital health, and patient safety. In Saudi Arabia, the regulatory landscape for medical devices has evolved rapidly to keep pace with innovation, localization, and Vision 2030 ambitions. Understanding that the Saudi Food and Drug Authority framework is therefore not optional. It's essential for manufacturers, regulators, healthcare providers, and investors seeking sustainable market access and compliance in the kingdom. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Engineer Abdulaziz Aldakhani, who brings extensive experience in medical device regulation and compliance, with direct engagement in the Saudi regulatory environment. After completing his studies in biomedical engineering at King Saud University, he began his career as a service engineer at King Fahd Medical City. He later joined Tamer Group as a regulatory affairs specialist for medical devices, where he quickly climbed the ranks and eventually became the head of the department. In 2013, he moved to Johnson & Johnson as a regulatory affairs lead for medical devices, eventually promoted to regulatory affairs manager for Saudi Arabia. During his time at Johnson & Johnson, he also pursued a master's degree in business, which he completed in 2016. After 8 years with Johnson & Johnson, he joined Medtronic as a senior manager in regulatory affairs, overseeing the Arabia overseeing the region, Saudi Arabia and Gulf. Also, he became a member of the advisory board for Department of Biomedical Technology at King Saud University. Please join me welcoming Dr. Abdulaziz for this session. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat box or the Q&A box, so we can have them at the end of the session. Hope you enjoy our session. And Dr. Abdulaziz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Bayan, and hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It depends where you are. So my name is Abdulaziz. As Dr. Bayan said, like I have a variant, like a involving like a many different companies, but from the last 16, 17 years, focusing in Saudi Arabia and enlarging the scope, to cover other medical device, like other countries, medical device regulation. But, from today's session, just only focusing on the medical device regulation in Saudi Arabia and specifically at the SFDA. So, in the late, like 5 to 10 years ago, the regulation had been involved in Saudi Arabia big time, and when it came to the safety and for the product, it's always going to the SFDA. But however, there is a different regulation have been applied recently in Saudi Arabia, but it's not meant for the safety, it's more than regulating the market somehow, like a NIPCO, there's MOH, there is the lot, like a holding, health holding companies, different regulator, but when it came to the safety, it's always directly to the SFDA. And then
Yeah. So today,
on that,
Engineer Abdulaziz, you will provide practical insights into navigating Saudi FDA medical devices regulations and what are the common, maybe, regulatory challenges you have faced during this time, and what are the best practices for successful and compliant market entry in KSA. And we're really looking to hear more of your precious or valued experience for sure.
yeah, definitely, and I can guarantee every day you're gonna learn something new. and gonna be surprised as well at the same time.
Yes, for
But
sure.
you can overcome those challenges, by working together, and also the mindset we have in Saudi, in SFDA, I mean, like they are still like a negotiable wherever challenge we are facing. So usually they have the open conversation. Usually they are not inventing any new things. Usually they check the global practice and try to adapting those practice. So it's not
Yeah,
inventing it something new. They are building from where the other have been end. So they're not starting over from scratch. And
yeah,
that's, to be more honest, that's the beauty of the for when it came to this SFDA. Whatever they have asked right now, and also previously, it's not something new. It's already existing, but need to check those documents and those information and provide it, and they are happy to cooperate, at the end, because their vision is just to protect the community, the society in Saudi Arabia, and by doing that one, participating with the partnership with the a global regulator, global companies, to do the best practice and move on with that one. So they
yeah,
ensuring the safety of the patients by like a collaboration between each others, and have the high standard quality of the product in the market.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Uh, from just like an overview for agenda for today. So we're going to speak a little bit about the history of the healthcare regulation in the country, overview on the license requirement, also some details, medical device requirement, and also the fees, how to maintain the license, importation exportation process, post-market activity, marketing material approval, and UDI as well. Those like a glimpse from the regulation. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, there's like a over than 14 requirement. And that's after the new regulation had been published. But previously, I think we reached out to almost 50 guideline plus minus. But there is a lot of documentation. But those the main driving. So once you are completing those license, those activities, I think you are able to starting do any medical device activity in the country. Despite like there's the other guideline, but within practice you can find those guidelines, those regulations. But those the mainly focusing area, and also from a city perspective as well, they are focused on those areas as well. So from a historical perspective, you back at that time, before 2000 2003, the MOH was regulated only for drug sector. So there's like medical device, there is no regulation for that one back at that time, only for the drug product. In 2003, they have been established the SFDA, and it's been decided to be in two phases. From 2003 to 2008, they just try to, like I call it like a preparation stage, to prepare their documentation and guideline, put their strategy to the SFDA. And in 2008, they would have been executive task have been implemented, which is interim regulation back at the time, until 2021, where have been become executive regulation have been issued, as a final one. That's from a historical perspective. And if you're going to look at the vision from the SFDA, it's just to be leading international science-based regulator. And that's what I mentioned before, that, they are not trying to invent something new. They just try to take the practice by scientific based and try to implement that one in the country to protect the public health, of course. And the mission to protecting the community through the regulation, affecting control, ensuring the safety food and drug and medical device, and also cosmetic and feed as well. So if you're going to talk a little bit about the journey, uh, so when the executive summary, or they had started the execution those tasks in 2008, the first thing had been announced in 2009 about the medical device national registry, whereas like the local company need to list their names, just to build the database from the safety, how many companies we have in the country. That started in 2009. In 2011, it's been a little bit adding like a more step that we listing even the product. It's listing, not registration, just to emphasize on that one. So we, after the first phase, which is company listing, every single company have been addressed or have been adding to their name to the national registry, MDNR. Then they have to go to the product section as well and listing those products as well. At the same time, they have been announced about the A.Arar agreement, the authorized representative agreement for those manufacturers, and also launching the MIDMA system. It's not been enforced, but they have started in 2011. In 2012, it's starting enforcing the high risk. So they take it in waves and they start with the high risk product to be enforced. That means required a MIDMA registration for those. Otherwise, you cannot import those medical device to the country. And after 3 years, they enforced the medium risk as well. In 2016, 1 year later, they enforced the low risk sterile and major. In 2018, that's completely the whole medical device got peer regulated and required peer registration. So in a nutshell, like it took them like almost 7 years, 7 or 8 years to enforce those regulation in the country and starting applying for the mid-register or starting to issuing mid-registration for those products. So from that time, all the medical device national registry for the product list has been obsoleted, so it's not required anymore and have been converted everything to be a MIDMA. And 2012, I'm sorry, 2022 have been announced about the complete technical file enforcement. That's mean we need a complete technical file in order to get the MIDMA certificate issued. And we're going to go for that one a little bit in details later on. But before we go to that, just take a license overview, so if you consider from the entity perspective, we have a warehouse, we have an important distributor, and also we have a manufacturers. So, and everyone like everyone have a separate license, not interacting with each other, but could be leveraged from license to another license as well. So let me start with the warehouse. So the first things we need to have a commercial registration for the warehouse. That's out of its day scope. Once you have that one, you get the medical device warehouse license. It's a separate license for the warehousing, from controlling perspective, from space perspective, from everything, from inspection perspective, from the SFDA as well. It's not related to the importation distribution, just a warehouse to ensure that product had been stored in appropriate place and comply with the manufacturer requirement as well. That's from warehouse perspective. But if you go to the importer and distributor, of course, you have to have a commercial registration, definitely. And once you are apply for the medical device establishment license, MDL, one of the requirements you needed to have a warehouse. So that's a mandatory. So we have the license for the warehouse and you can apply for the MDL. The first question they ask, do you have a warehouse? If you don't have, you will not granted the MDL license. And once you have this MDL license, it's eligible you to have any medical device activity within the country. And from product perspective, you have to assign the authorized representative by the manufacturers. Could be overseas, could be local, absolutely fine. So we have the A.Arar for that. And then we can apply for the medical device authorized, like a medical device marketing authorization, which is the MIDMA one. Once you have the MIDMA, you can start selling the product within the market. A quick note, there's two separate licenses if you are important distributor as warehouse as well. Local manufacturers within the kingdom have the option either to assign the A.Arar or represent them themselves, so they have the choice. Uh, any entity involved in medical device activities must have the MDL, and also the A.Arar. It's a mandatory step for any just starting registration within the kingdom. And very high level of requirement, there's a lot of details, but there's something should consider when you apply for the MDL. First, you have to have a commercial registration, including medical device activities. There is a list, or there is a drop list from medical device activity. You have to select on that one before you're applying for the MDL. If you are not part of that list, then you are not eligible to have the MDL license. It's from like an importer, distributor, could be warehousing. There is different activities. It's already have been listed by the commercial registry, like a commercial ministry, and with a line with the SFDA. So they have like a very unique standard drop list for the activity. You have to apply for that. Uh, as we mentioned before, at least you have a warehouse. It could be fully owned by the establishment, the same establishment, or it could be renting a space. So we have many of the like a warehouse companies in the kingdom, and you can approach them and ask for like a, I'm not sure how much, depend on your product, if you need a 50 or 60 or like a 10-meter square space, from that one, and they can apply it via the system and rent those space for it's owned by you. Also, there's a classification for the MDL from A to D. It's depend on the size of the company and number of product they are managing. And there is a questionnaire for that one. You can answer those questions, and based on that answers, you're being classified as either A, was like a big size, like a huge size companies, till the very small size companies. Uh, and but when it came from requirement, all the classified like establishment will treat it the same requirement apply for all of them. It's only a matter of the fees and also from the requirement from the quality management system, and we're going to came that on the next step. And also you have the traceability system that's mandatory to be available, should be kept over there, should be available when the audit came. Also the quality management system has become mandatory and requirement and should be comply with the ISO 13485. And when it came from like as we discussed before, like a classification AMP entity required to have a certification from accredited entity, that's me notified body, should have issued the certificate for them. For C&D, like those companies, like a small size companies, should comply with the standard, but they don't have to be to accredited by any entity, but there will be auditing by the SFDA. That's from the MDL's perspective, but when you go to the AR representative, there is a template should follow. We cannot be modified. It's a pretty standard like a template, and it's achievable. Should be like should have no question on that one. The template, and those templates should be legalized, and also the quality management system should be provided during that the submission for the authorized representative. MEDMA, before 2022. We used to provide like a certificate from CE or FDA or any one of the GHTF member countries, and that's have been obsoleted. It used to be like only for new registration, but within that time, the enforcement level is not being like at one shot. It's get gradually, to be enforced. So when they announced it in 2022, it's only applicable for the new registration. But within that time, starting from this year, even the renewal or any changing required like a to complete technical file, and that starting from this year. It used to be like only for new registration, but have been changed starting from this year as well, or actually lately last year as well. And just a little bit about the classifications and just to compare that one, the GHTF members, the US, Japan, Canada, Australia, and EU. And if you're going to talk about the classification, just to have a comparison between all of them, I pick out only three of them according to Saudi Arabia. So in Saudi Arabia, we have A, B, C, D. D, we're going to be high, similar to EU for like class 3, US class 3, Canada will be class 4, and medium risk, B and C, 2A, 2B, class 2, and 2 and 3 in Canada. And the lowest risk will be a 1 sterile 1 measure, and also class 1 like an sterile measure, and all the class 1 typically for all other countries. That's the classification, just to have a comparison between all of them. So usually when you start to like talking with any other authority or regulator, usually we have the same common, same like a classification, high, medium, and low. But it's how have been classified. It could be at 4, could be at 3, but the classification is increasing with the like when you go to the risk management risk classification, when it's become high, almost everyone will align with the same scope of those products. Going to the registration process, that's very in light, just to think about it like a very step by step. So when you receive a registration request, you have to check first if you have a complete technical file. If not, that you cannot do start registration in Saudi Arabia unless you have the complete technical file. If you have it ready and available, you're gonna check if it have like an AR available in the country. If it's already have been placed, then you can skip this part, or you can go to the next step that when preparing the documentation and the applications, submit it. And that's the CFDA will take 35 working days to respond back. To be more honest, usually they respond faster than that one. It takes 10 working days. But if you check the guideline, it's 35 working days. But usually we get a response within 2 weeks maximum. So if there is a comment, which is usually we have, we fulfill those comments and resubmit it back. It's a take another 35 working days as well. And we're going to go in circle till we have the certificate will be approved and should be issued. The other aspect, and there's like a lot of question came when it came to the AR. So the legal manufacturer, assuming if you're going to be overseas, they can have two AR at the same time, but the most important is the AR1, for example, have product 1 and 2. They cannot to have a dual registration with the AR2. That's mean AR2 have a different tool, like a totally different product than the AR1. So you have like you can assign multiple ARs as much as you needed, as long they are not like have a dual registration with the same countries, with the same ARs. So one MIDMA license per product, P1 AR, you can transfer those MIDMA certificate between the ARs. That should be fine, but you cannot like duplicate those product registration within the country. And we're gonna came for the importation piece because it's not like like have any contradictory for that one. That's from product registration. If you're going to compare the requirements, so as GHTF back at the time, it's very, very simple and like a straightforward document, label IFU, market material, DOC, CE certificate if you are applying by CE, or like an FDA 510K, or like a Canada certificate or any other certificate as well. You can replace that one. But most common, what we are seeing in our country is just a CE mark certificate and the audit report, ISO 1345, and also the local statement. That's all this requirement have been obsoleted and been replaced with a new complete technical file, which is like a details about design and manufacture facilities and also the critical subcontractor. So, and also like in other words, the physical manufacturer as well, critical subcontractor that supply the product to the facility, manufacturer facility. Those all should be listed in the application itself. Product details, like a briefing description, variant, classification, picture, drawing, or history, market position, all this information about the product itself, label IFU, catalog as well, should be provided, within the application. The level of enforcement for this information, it's a variant from one to another applications, but those the common as according to the regulation, those all being mandatory should be required. But if something is not being available, we can provide a justification or like a reason why it's not being available, and usually they can accept that one. The same information, same details will going as well for the accessories. So whatever we provide for the main devices, and we can do it same information for the accessories. The second part will be the design and manufacturing information, like a manufacturing process, design stage, traceability, technical specifications, all this information. It's standard for manufacturers and should be provided within the applications. Quality management system, if you have an ISO, will be sufficient over here. Quality manual could have some like a negotiation with the SFDA if you have a reason why you don't have the ISO for that manufacturer, but it's mandatory to have the ISO certificate from one of the accredited notified body. But if you only have a quality manual, then we can have some discussion with SFDA. If you have a valid reason, can waive those ISO certificate. But most of the time they insist to have those ISO certificate. Essential requirement checklist as well, benefit risk analysis and risk management, product verification, validation as well, vigilance and post-market surveillance. Those requirements is apply or required for every single product that we're going to be submitted to the SFDA for review and approved, which is mean if you notice there is no international regulator certificate will be required over here. But there is a section for that. You can provide this information like a CE certificate or FDA or whatever other regulator, issuing any approval. That we're going to expedite the process, but it's not mandatory to have it to make it available in order to get the approval. That's give a leverage for local manufacturers, especially for the local manufacturing, that those requirements, those technical file, once be available, it will eligible them to get the MIDMA approval. But for like an overseas manufacturer, if have any approval from any other countries, this is like a plus and could be expediting the process for reviewing as well. A little bit about the fees. So the MDL for the local entity, local companies, the class A, it's the big size companies, would cost 25,000 Saudi Riyal annually. B will be 15,000, C will be 8,000, and D will be 5,000. But again, just to emphasize on that one, from requirement perspective, all whatever going to be applied for A, it's going to be applied for D, except the fees and the requirement for the quality management system, which is like it should be issuing an ISO or just have to comply with the standard and audited by the SFDA. That's for an MDL. If you're going to the MIDMA, we're going to starting by low risk. It's A, 15,000 every 3 years, and B will be 19,000, C will be 20,000, 21,000, and D will be 23,000. Those will be every 3 years. So the license validity for MIDMA would be 3 years. Authorized representative is 2,600 real per year, but you can apply like up to 10 years, that's the first submissions. Move on for product life cycle. I think this is like a pretty standard. So when we have any license globally, actually not only for Saudi Arabia, we have the renewal. Also, there is a change, and we're gonna going in circle until the product will be obsoleted. So from renewal, we know that already have been discussed. That's 3 years validity, and we have to apply for renewal for that one. But from changing, SFDA have a guideline on that one, and they classify it with significant or non-significant changes. But when it comes for significant changes, that means we should be reporting within 10 days and also updating the license immediately up the MIDMA license, like a sterilization status, MRA compatibility status, and also name or model, legal manufacturer things, legal manufacturer address have been changed. Those considered as significant changes. The non-significant changes should be notified the CDA over email within 30 days, and those changes could be updating during the renewal, like an artwork, font colors, and any impact could be happening for that one, not impacting the design or the product design. But it's really challenging to classify that one, and that's what the SFDA came saying. The classification change according to the legal manufacturer's procedures. So if the manufacturer considered those significant or not significant, we have to follow that one according to the procedure for the manufacturers. And that's how we are following for those changes in the country. When it came to change, it could be from fees perspective, it's 1,100, or it could be 5,000, depending on the change itself. And that's for non-significant. For significant change, it will be 5,000. It could be full fees, by the way. When it came, for example, changing legal manufacturer name or address, that's mean that if they're gonna touch base with every single document, reviewing everything from scratch, which is considered as a full fees as well. For importations, before importing product to Saudi Arabia, there is a 4 license or 4 documents should make it available. The MDL for the importer, the AR and the MIDMA, which is maintained by the legal manufacturer, and the DOC. The DOC over here is the clearance DOC, not the DOC for registration or the Arabian one. You can see some like a template on the right side where you're mentioning the medical, like the MIDMA license, link it to the quantity and also who's importing and the authorized representative. This is like a make FDA clearance much easier, and also confirming those product, like a genuine product came from exactly the manufacturer, trying to avoid parallel importation in Saudi Arabia. And one aspect should be following the manufacturer instructions. So if there's like any temperature control, you should have like a data logger on the shipment. Should be keep it during the the transportation till the thing arrived to Saudi Arabia. If there are any other like a manufacturing instruction, should be compliant, should be approved when the shipment had been arrived as well. The DOC should be signed by the legal manufacturers before the pin arrives, and we provide to the SFDA. There is some exceptional cases like a demo, spare part, sample for evaluation, custom-made product. Those do not require the MIDMA. This requires a separate approval for importation, and it's already available in the system when you are trying to import any product to the country. Following those exceptional cases, it's a separate approval, not related to the MIDMA, and it's not required DOC as well, since they have a special approval for that. When it came to product importations, there's a legal manufacturer gonna issue the DOC for importation. And you can see there's an 1 AR, I can put a scenario, there's a 1 AR and product 1, product 2 have been registered within certain MIDMAs. Anyone in Saudi Arabia can import those items, same product, same product to the country, but they have to have the DOC, clearance DOC available in order to clear those shipments. So if you're gonna follow the previous requirement, the importer 1, for example, importer 2, they have the MDL license available, A.Arar and MENA, it's already maintained by the league manufacturer, by their like a counterpart in Saudi Arabia, and the DOC clearance or requirement should be provided by the league manufacturer for the shipment. So we have like can import with anyone in Saudi Arabia as long we have the A.Arar and MENA MDL available and DOC will be available. That's not like impacting the importation process. When you go to the exportation process, so it's used to be like approved by the SFDA, but this is a responsibility have been moved to the custom, but still applicable the same reason. So when you are exporting product out of the country, there is like a should be providing reason exportation. Like if you're going for maintenance, if it's expired product, if it's whatever the reason for that one, you can provide that one. Signing the form as well. There's some form should be signed. That's used to be accepted, provided to the SFDA, but I think I forgot the time, but last year or before last year, this is responsibility have been delegated to the custom, so you can apply directly to the custom. Also, there's an exceptional cases for demo and spare part. We can use the same importation license because demo cannot be kept in the country, must re-export it back once we have done from the training or from the session for that one, must be exported, but we cannot keep the demo product within the country. And before the expired license for the demo, we should exit from the country using the same importation license. Uh, that's when it came from import and export perspective, like going to the post-market activities. So as you may aware, the field safety notice have a three category, three type, could be recall, could be corrections, could be notifications. But the same procedure gonna apply for three of them. So step one, when you have any field safety notice, you have to notify the impacted customers within 5 days by SMS, email, call, visit, anyway, WhatsApp, any way you see fit, but you have to notify the customer there's a field safety notice for that product, do not use it. Then going to be followed by acknowledgement letter. So when you submit, there is a form should be signed by the customers or by the hospitals, acknowledging how many quantity they have, if there is like a return, if it can be used, those information should be filled in the form and submitted back. We're going to collect the impacted item when it can be recall or corrections. So we're going to recall those items or do the corrections in the field and do the action for the step three. Step four, we're going to be archiving those evidence. We kept it in our like a SharePoint or like a whatever it should be archived in the company, and we signed a confirmation letter to the SFDA that those actions have been completed. So the SFDA will not asking for those evidence. They will ask for the confirmation letter. That's all the activity have been completed at any certain time of level or any times. The SFDA have the right to audit you, for whatever have been notified of those actions have been completed. So they will ask for evidence. They like some sort of auditing to check if those documents is really available or not. That's when it came for the field safety notice. But if you're going to the vigilance or adverse event, any impact will be happening within the country. We have to notify the SFDA within 5 days, and also collecting those impacted products and ship it for investigation. So we ship it to the legal manufacturers to the appropriate investigation. And based on the result, it's either we can close the case if there is no any concern about the product, or could be converted to a field safety notice if there is like an issue for the design or for the product. Could be any other reason as well. But based on the investigation result, it could be leading for closing or like converting to the field safety notice. That's very high level in the post-market activity. And if you're going to switch it to the marketing material, the regulation states very clearly, we cannot use any marketing material unless it's been approved by the SFDA. Despite the way, if it's online, if it's like a videos, it's audio, we cannot use it until we have the SFDA approval. And there is like two ways to get the approval. First part will be like a part of the registration file, and this is considered as non-significant changes as well. So we open variation or changes, and we add those material in that application, and we get approval on that one. So that's one way. The other way is to submit directly to the advertising department. When it came to home use devices, cost like a 3,000 Saudi Riyal per product. Professional use will be 6,000 Saudi Riyal per product as well. And just like to give you a heads up, there's a lot of change going on about the marketing material, but that's what we have been published so far from the SFDA. Something need to be considered when you are applying. The product must be registered. So any product is not being registered cannot doing any marketing material for them. And the content of the material should not be misleading. So it should be clear to the audience or who are going to be received that one should be very clear what would the purpose for that one. And additionally, for those home use devices, must be in Arabic as well. Additionally to the English one part. That's the marketing material. Going to the UDI. So the UDI have a two-part. It's device identifier and product identifier. So device identifier, it's like a 14-digit fixed issued by like a agency, like a GS1, issuing those number. And it's really, really unique globally. So this number 14-digit cannot be repeated for any other product globally, if it's medical device or non-medical device. So it's a very unique numbers. And that should be fixing with every single devices, But the product identifier could be changing, could be contain like a manufacture date, expired date, lot number. Those information it's like encoded with the barcode itself. So it could be happening like it could be changed, it could be variant. It's not. I think it's 23 sections. It's not all will be applicable, but some of them will be applicable for as a product identifier, depending on the product itself. And there is two type. It's a linear barcode or should be like a data matrix, the 2D barcode as well. So both of them will be like it could be acceptable but from the SFDA. Just like I'll give you a glimpse on that one. So we can see right now this is like a made up label, so it's not a real one, but just to give you like an insight how it should be look like. If you see there's like a linear barcode, there's a linear barcode over there, and there is an HRI text associated with that one. That's number is just encoding whatever had been mentioned the code itself. So it's a human readable interpretation for that one. And this information should be available with every single barcode. It could be in the linear one, it could be in the 2D matrix as well, should be available over there. The non-HRI text, that's mean the other information, it's not related to the barcode, but it's given information. For example, the lot number, expire date, manufacturer date, those information we consider as the non-HRI, non-human readable interpretation text. It's not related to the barcode, but give you information about the product itself. It's really like a challenging to try to understand that one. It's confusing sometimes. Even myself, I get confused on that one. But generally, the HRI, it's about the coding and encoding for the barcode itself. The non-HRI, it's any other information will be available on the product. And those information, what is really looking for to uploading those device identifier to the SFDA, Saudi D system. And also there is some interpretation information should be provided associated with that one. That's about the UDI. Maybe the last part will be only for just to give you a glance on the systems. So right now we have a RAD. It's apply for the MDL warehouse as well, medical device establishment license, medical device warehouse. You can apply for the A.Arar, MENA, and also importation license. That's mean like for demo or training materials, you apply it over there from via RAD. The NCMDR, it's about for vigilance and field safety notice as well. We have a FASH system, it's called for clearance. So once the shipment arrived, we upload those requirement documentation, that's portal, and we get approval that one. And also Saudi D will be for the UDI. Those most like a common system we are using, but covering all the activity we talk about today. That's all from today. Hopefully it's a really like adding any information, adding any value. And I'm not sure if you have any comment, Dr. Bayan, if you have any questions.
Yes, we have some questions in the Q&A box, and we will share them with you, Engineer Abdulaziz, so you can answer the audience directly. We have the first question says, can products be sold without having commercial license and going directly with A.Arar?
Right. So we need to think about it from different angle, because the question have two different things. So first,
Yes.
the commercial registration is required for importer and distributor, and only commercial registration, it's not eligible you to do any medical device selling or activity in the country. You have to have the MDL license, medical device establishment license, in order to start the activity. That's one part. The second part, any medical device product do not have MedMed approval or valid license, you cannot start selling for that one. So there's two conditions. The establishment itself, the entity itself, should have the MDL approved, and also the product itself should have the MedMed valid.
Okay. Well, there's a question. Another question says, how many cycle of the request can the Saudi FDA issue to the TFA?
How many? I'm sorry.
How many cycles of the
Ah,
request?
if you, that's a really good question. If you're gonna follow exactly the
Yeah.
guideline and the regulation, they saying like a 60 days and 3 cycles. But what we saw from practice perspective, they are
Okay.
cooperative on that. They are cooperative on that one. And
Okay.
if you need a long time, you can ask for extension for those 60 days. If you need more than 3 cycles, you can connect with them and explain what's going on that one. But for
Okay.
example, if there is one comment and repeat it like 3 times, they have the right to cancel the application. But it's like
Okay.
if you're gonna follow the guideline, it's 3 cycles, 60 days. But it's relying on how we are good in negotiation.
Okay. So you have to be a good negotiator to skip
Yeah,
the timing and the cycles. By the way,
yeah.
in strategy, that's our main focus always, because each request from any authority, it costs you time, and
Indeed.
time is money for us in regulatory. So this is what we usually take care about in every and each step. So this is where the experience plays a major role, as you explained, Engineer Abdulaziz.
Right.
We have another question says, could you please explain a bit more what's meant by applied parts from the new requirements about the TFA? What type of document can fulfill this requirement?
Right. Maybe it's a good question, by the way. It's because
We
yeah,
have experts.
because because this question have been keep repeated again and again. And also
Okay.
I have been discussed with some like a many stakeholders, some of my friend, on that one, but there is no like a definitely answer for that one. But what we are saying, what we saw so far. There is like a list of apply standard, according to
Mhm.
according to the activity or the test we are doing that one.
Okay.
And there is a standard should follow that one, should follow for that standard. And that's the apply standard should be applicable for that one. There is no certain way how we'll provide it. So sometime in justification letters, sometimes like a document have been available with the legal manufacturers. There's a different way how we can submit that one. And there is no way SFDA accepting to provide this information. But the
Mhm.
apply standard, it's depend on the product itself, how like this product gonna be fulfilled, whatever test they have, and following which standard. If there's like an electronic, like a test,
Yeah.
there is a reason like if how we are applying, how we are ensuring, or how we are ensure that we are following some certain standards or applying standard for that one, and that document should be provided. There's a certain way, it's depend how the manufacturer like provide this information.
Yeah. Thank you, Engineer Abdulaziz, for this answer. I hope it helps. But as we said,
Right.
yes, we have to keep focused on all the details at together.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you
maybe
would
maybe
you want to add?
yeah,
Yes.
I would like to add something. Maybe it's a really important piece over here.
Yeah.
The SFDA technical file, it's like
Okay.
maybe 95%, maybe more than that actually, following the MDR regulation, So
Okay.
like what the SFDA try to achieve over here, it's not something create something from scratch. They
Mhm.
check, they found the MDR regulation, it's fitting their
Okay.
needed, and they ask to do the same things for Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
So most of those comments or most of those requirements, it's not something invented, something not created from scratch. It should be available somehow globally, within the legal
Yes.
manufacturer. So, and if it's something not being available or some requirement is not meeting or should not be applied, a justification submitted with an application could be helpful and understanding as well from the CFDA.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. Anyone would like to ask any question, please write them in the Q&A section because I see that people are typing. Can I ask? Yes, you can ask, and Engineer Abdulaziz will be happy to
Yeah,
answer all
sure,
the questions, inshallah, before our session ends.
sure.
We have a question from Dr. Muna. How much time do the marketing approval take? And is the marketing approval obtained from the same Department of Medical Devices Registration or it's a separate department?
Yeah, there is a lot of debate on that area, to be more honest, So
Okay.
that, but
Shall I separate the questions?
uh, maybe I can give you like a general answer on that one.
Okay.
So the leading time when it came to the, that's the tricky part. So when you submit to the via Midma, you can see the progress on that one. We go back and forward. You can see the timeline, and usually it takes 15 working days according to the guideline. But again, the response from the SFDA is super fast than what they've mentioned in their KPI. That's when you apply for the directly to the Midma application through GAD. That's the first way. The second way, it's a challenging because right now they developing like an IT solution for that one. But meanwhile, when we submit it, it's a paperwork. So we need to have this printed, go to the SFDA, over if it's video or audio, should be over CDs, and give it to the SFDA, and they will get like a response back from their side. And that's, I think, the most challenging part because going over there, submit it physically, it's really hectic. But we have been attended like a mini workshop for marketing material, but they are developing some IT solution for that one to avoid all those hassles. But from timeline perspective, it's not mentioned clearly on that one, but from experience, it's take like a 3 to 5 working days to get answer back from if you submit it directly, and from GAD, if you submit over there, it's 15 working days.
Okay. Thank you. We have another question that says, who's eligible to register the medical device in KSA? For example, in UAE, we can register medical devices under medical store or scientific office, the MAH office. What about Saudi FDA?
You're right. It's a good question, by the way. And that's why if you go back in the slide, there is like a one AR. This is AR could be anyone in Saudi Arabia. It could be the importer, it
Okay.
could be the distributor, it could be even consultant office, in Saudi Arabia. It's not have any
Okay.
medical device activity. It's ticket only for that one. It could be scientific office as well. So segregating the activity on that, it's not related for the product itself. So we can have a separate office, consultant office in Saudi Arabia that's doing the registration activity, or to be as first should be assigned as an AR and do the registration activities.
Mhm.
But when it came to the product importation and distribution, that's a different license, should be applied first, before doing any handling of the product in the country.
Okay. We have another question about stability. As zone 4 stability study is mandatory for medical devices of class D, which are the injectable fillers.
I didn't see that in the requirement, if I remember, if I have a good memory on that one, but I
Mm-hmm.
never see any like a requirement for zone 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, and there is no requirement for that one. It could be upon request. I hesitate to actually to be asking something is not in the requirement itself, but as long we are following the manufacturer instructions, I don't think we need to provide any evidence for that one. But stability studies is one of the requirement. But depending on the zone, I never saw it before, to be more honest, any specific question about that area.
Okay. We have another question asking, does the medical devices need to go a classification first or directly to registration?
Right, that's a good question, because we have a cases, like a good number of
Okay.
cases, when we submitted and they asked to go back to the classification.
Mhm.
But most of the case, if it's very clearly that medical device, it's going directly to the midman started registrations. And
Okay.
very few cases where it's have a doubt, the midman, before paying any fees, before proceeding anything, they reject
Yeah.
the application and ask you to do classification first. You know, in very doubt if they have doubting on that area. But most of the cases, very clear that's medical device, the classification will not be required.
Yeah, so they maybe look to the classification from any country from Europe, for example, or they notice the exact classification, and then they follow the procedure.
It is depend on the type of product, you know.
Okay.
There is nothing in my mind right now, but maybe the filler product, the contact lenses, the solution for the contact lenses, those products, you know, it's like a landing on the gray area. And just to ensure which the pathway should follow, should be considered as a cosmetic product or should be like a
Okay.
medical device, usually they push it back saying, do the classification.
Okay.
And based on the classification, what the document you are providing to them, it could be classified. It's either this or that one.
Okay. We have another question about GTAN. If someone has a medicine that's registered as a medical device, which is specifically an eye drop, does it have to have does it need to have a UDI code for GTN number?
Yeah, maybe it could be like answering the previous question because you know it's if it's like we have like a combined product between pharma and medical, that's one of the cases
Yes.
could be going for the classification, and based on the mode action, it could be classified either medical or device, depending on the classification. However, when it came to the G10, I'm not expert in the pharma, but I know pharma applying for this G10 numbers or the UDI numbers even earlier than the medical device, or maybe like in the same times. But I know both will be mandatory required, even if it's drug, because it is a drug product or medical device product. But the G10, it's mandatory for both for sure,
Okay.
despite anything else.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, there's someone who's asking if someone wants to sell medical device in Saudi Arabia, can the product be sold through a distributor? With the distributor acting as the authorized representative and importer of record, or you can act as AR and I and the importer of record at the same time.
You know, both should be fine. So as long as you have the MDL license for that importer, you know, we can, they or he can or she can add the AR activity to that one. It's based on the contract between both of you. So you can assign
Hmm.
the same importer as an AR, and you can have a separate entity, you know, different like a consultation office or different
Yeah.
entity can be assigned the AR and do the registration on behalf of you. But you know, the AR and MIDMA, it's going hand by hand together, you know, but if it's same as an importer or not, it's like a company decision.
Okay. So I'm trying to get diverse questions. We have a question about patents. What about the patency and medical devices registration? There are any regulation like in the drug registration?
You know, if it's classified as a medical device, you know, because depending on the classification, you're going to follow the
Yes.
same requirement. You're going to follow the same requirement. There is no segregation on that one, but you know, there's an additional statement. You should be declaring that those products contained, you know, on that one. That's the only different, but there is no segregating regulation for that.
Okay. Um, we have a question about how many times are accepted to resend my corrective actions raised from my technical file, and what's the cost, estimated cost?
Mm, I'm not sure exactly. I'm trying to answer generally, but you know, it's
Okay.
following the 3 cycle and the 60 days. You know, if you need a more
Okay.
cycle to be addressed or we need a more time, it's need to be communicated with the SFD that you need more time or like I need to be very like a additional additional review for that one. But sending the same document 3 times, that's will like I have as if they have the right to reject that one. So you can do I
Okay.
think the correction multiple times, but again, it's depends on the negotiations. You know, my advice in this scenario, you know, always have like a 2 times sending back the same comment. Just a setup meeting or send an email to midma.it, asking, inquiring, set up meeting with them, asking for the meeting. Usually the reviewer gonna set up meeting with you, explaining exactly what they are looking for, and you will have an answer, you know, just to avoid any 3 cycle attempt.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a question from someone is asking if they have experience in drug regulatory affairs. Can they work in medical devices as a separate? or a new
Uh,
domain. So they started with drugs, but they want to move for medical devices.
it's depend how smart he or she is.
Okay.
But from my experience, I remember one of
Okay.
this previous job, we have a pharma product and we try to apply for the pharma
Uh-huh.
registration. For me, it was not easy. It's a really learning curve, but it was not easy, especially when you have the entity have been established and the procedure you have for medical device, because there's a certain area could be changing, is not like a matching some
Yes.
process, some activity, some requirement. It's not matching, but we speak common language at the end, so it's not like
Yes. Yes. Yes.
we can figure out a way. If you are good
Yes.
in pharma, you can figure out something in medical device,
Yes.
but it won't be
Well,
easy.
yes, yes. If you, from my experience, because I have experience in many categories, like I worked in drugs because I worked in local distributors as a with the regulatory authorities. I worked on drug and I worked on medical devices. Drug is you enjoy working on, or you learn a lot from the drugs. But if you're smart, as Engineer Abdulaziz said, that you can take your passion and your all the skills that you have and reflect them on the medical devices, because they have many things that are new. Each time we have a new classifications, we have a new cases, and one of the most challenging cases that I have previously in my work is the classification. When you're in a country, for example,
Yeah.
you have it registered as drug, and when you move it, for example, to the Middle East, it's registered as a medical device. So there's like a lots of common things in between. But as a regulatory affairs professional, you have to be smart and use your skills to see how to manage the file and how to defend your product and able to represent it in front of the authorities and get the approval that you want to have. So you have to be smart, even if we are in a regulated industry. But I think having the skills can give you a space to move between the different areas or different products for sure.
Can't agree more.
Yes. Anyone has any further question? I'm trying to find if there's any questions that we didn't address before. Um, okay, we have suggestions. Okay, okay. We have okay, there's a last question. Company gave response to questions received from Saudi FDA, but the response was late. What will be the consequences, doctor?
Yeah, it is, that's right now they had the right to reject or to cancel the application,
Yeah,
but what from practice perspective,
yeah.
if the last respond, fulfill the requirement, usually they let it go, and they accept it, but if it's still like they need one more attempt, most probably they will reject it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to keep with the deadlines. Deadlines are
Yeah.
the most important things
I,
when dealing with authorities, because
and just
it's,
if you need
yeah,
more time, just send an email that I need more time in this application,
yes,
just
yes,
mention
or
that
a
one and they're
guesstimate.
accepting it. Yeah, yeah, they
Yes,
can accept it.
yes, I agree. With that question, we reached the end of our session. We really enjoyed it. Thank you, Engineer Abdulaziz, for all the insights that you gave us. We learned from the expert in 1 hour. We have the practical insights on registering medical devices in Saudi Arabia. And from the Q&A, I see that everyone really had enjoyed our session. Thank you, Engineer Abdulaziz, again for all the insightful presentation, and thanks to everyone for joining us. And thank you, BRA, for the opportunity to give this presentation and join such experts in one place. And with this, we end our presentation. Thank you, everyone, and wish you a very nice day.
Thank you, Dr. Bayan. Thank you everyone for having the time, and thank you BRA for organizing everything. So appreciate it and wish you a lovely day.